roads, it's so wide and so varied, and you can obviously specialise in whichever field you want. My work experience with Atkins has been quite varied as well. When I first joined, one of the first things I looked at was the foundation design of a tower that was to be built in Bangkok. Following that, I then did some surveys of Waterloo Station, looking at the concourse and arches local to the station. I then was quite lucky to be seconded out to Dubai for about 6 weeks, working on an aqua park. Basically, that was very good. I was checking drawings and dealing with technical queries and designing elements such as masonry walls and staircases. And I actually went during the winter, which is about 34 degrees, but it was actually the best time to be there because I think they've got all the events on. So you've got the Dubai Sevens, you've got powerboat racing, I think the horse racing, cricket. So it really was a fantastic time. Being a female in civil engineering is sort of quite a novel idea. I think there's about 10% of engineers are women. And there's no real disadvantages. If anything, it's kind of, I think women can offer something different to engineering. I think companies have actually said, sort of directors of companies, you know, looking to recruit women, just to bring diversity to the workplace, really. I think it's important. When a new building or bridge is constructed, then everybody always thinks about the architect. I think the media like to talk about architects, but for some reason I think engineers are quite modest, and even though architects do is their perhaps concept, but in terms of bridges, sometimes it is actually engineering companies and civil engineers that design those bridges. So I think we need to maybe bring that more to the forefront and people to appreciate that, you know, civil engineers do some good, clever design and get things to look good and stand and work.
If you like the majesty of tall buildings, you might choose to specialise in structural engineering. Geraldine Halson trained as a civil engineer, but now works as a structural engineer on high-rise buildings in Canary Wharf, London.
We're currently in Docklands, Canary Wharf, which is an area of development of buildings for office space, retail space, trying to create a financial district in London. This particular high-rise building is going to be 37 stories when it's completed. Originally this was dock, so originally where we're standing now would have been underwater, and what they've done is they've created what they call a cofferdam, which is these steel piles that you can see around the side, and that creates a dry space in which to construct the building from the bottom up. So at the moment we've got foundations in, piled foundations, and the raft slab along the bottom, and then we're going to be starting with the central core, which provides the stability to the building. It's the central part of the building where normally you'll find the lifts and the stairwells. If it wasn't there, the building wouldn't stand up.
I've always been interested in high-rise buildings because it's stretching the boundaries of structural engineering. It's taking everything to its absolute limits. I'm very fortunate in the fact that our company has a specialist team that work on high-rise structures all over the world, New York, Mexico, Hong Kong, and now in London. And the building that I'm developing at the moment is one that's going for planning permission in Canary Wharf, which is going to be approximately 50 stories high, which is very exciting. It's the first time I've ever worked on such a high-rise structure, so it's very exciting for me. I didn't know what I was wanting to do as a career when I was at school, so I decided to choose A-level subjects that I was interested in and hope that that would lead me to a career path that I would enjoy. I studied maths, physics and geography A-level. I then went on to do a degree in civil engineering with German language, which meant I had the opportunity to work in Germany for a year as part of a 4-year course. When I first told my parents that I wanted to go to university to study civil engineering, I think mainly they were very proud. I was one of the first people in the family to go to university and the first engineer. The first major project that I worked on was Dartford and Gravesham Hospital project, where I worked on the design and also then went on to work on site as a site engineer. And that was a great boost to the career because it means that you can see the design element from the office space, but you also then go to see your design actually implemented on site, what type of problems the engineers on site were facing trying to implement your design and how you may have designed things better. One of the main points I enjoy about structural engineering is the way that you can be creative, but you can also have the maths to back it up. So it's almost being creative, but with the technical background to support that creativity. I think each project is different. You're always learning on every project that you work on. Every project and every building is a prototype because none are ever the same.
The interior of a building offers a lot of scope for building services engineers to come up with inspiring and environmentally friendly solutions. Elaine Vickers is a building services engineer who's worked on a range of innovative projects, including Alton Towers Hotel.
The hotel is themed on an eccentric traveller. So you walk in and the reception desk looks like a pile of suitcases. There's fascinating exhibits that the traveller's collected on his travels, clocks, air balloons, all sorts of different things. There's some great features in the hotel. The flying machine in the atrium, which dominates it, was fascinating to work on. The interior designers had some amazing ideas, which we had to assist them in coming to life, getting the electrical supplies to the feature and making it operate basically. The lifts, again, we had to work closely with the interior designers. They wanted this amazing experience when you go into the lifts. The lights all dim, the music comes on, just really great fun to work on. I have actually worked on quite a number of hotel projects, one in London, but also some other exciting ones out in Jamaica, which got me a site visit out there, which was obviously great. The architect was based in Miami, so we had to have design team meetings out in his offices there and then go out to Jamaica to visit the sites. I've done lots of exciting things in my career so far, so really just hopefully it stays as exciting as this.
Large-scale projects need careful planning, and if you are good at strategy, you might want to progress into this field of construction. Senior Planning Manager Adio Amusa works for a large contractor and has always opted to be site-based.
Site-based planning has its great bonuses. One, it's dynamic. You see the building getting built. You see the challenges every day. You see the problems you get. It's also very social, and it's a lot more fun from that point of view as well. I did most of my training in Glasgow. The course I attended was the BSc in Construction Management, and it was a 4-year sandwich course, which meant you spent 2.5 years in the college university. You had 15 months out, which was an invaluable experience, and a year back in. And I was fortunate in my year to be sponsored by the company I worked with. One of the projects I worked on early on in my career was Ibrox Stadium, and we had to demolish part of the building. I am a Celtic supporter, so it was actually quite a lot of fun to knock down part of the rival football stadium. And most of the contractors I worked with, or I employed on the job, were actually Celtic supporters as well, which made it even more fun. The most challenging project I've worked on has got to be Westminster Station. It was 45 meters into the ground. You had to organize, plan deliveries of materials and men 45 meters in. And at the same time, the fun thing about doing Westminster Station was the fact we had to keep the district and circle line above us, 40 meters up, keep it going as you're tunneling and building below them. Recently, I've been given the opportunity to mentor and train a young planner. And the beauty about that is you learn more skills about yourself, or more things about yourself, things you used to take for granted. You can now pass on. The experience you've had, you can now pass on.
Been working with Adio for about 7 months altogether. And we've split our roles in a quite efficient way. So I'm allowed a certain amount of leeway to make decisions, planning decisions, but I tend to consult Adio for his depth of experience and amongst other things. It's quite nice to have a bit of a, a little bit of a shelter at the moment, and I can bounce ideas off him on a day-to-day basis. And when I do think the job's at risk, I tend to discuss things with him before I go ahead and advise my team.
It's tough. I've probably given a very ideal picture of construction, but it is very tough, but it is very rewarding. It used to be a case of bullying and getting people to do things you wanted to do, but that's changed. Attitudes in construction have changed. It's no longer forcing people and pushing people to do something. It's people that build the job. It's not companies, it's not rules, it's not bullying. It's people that actually build projects.
There's no doubt that construction offers creative and inspiring careers for those who are prepared to take the plunge. It can be challenging, but the rewards speak for themselves.
Every day is different. One day you're working with an architect, the next day you're working with a service engineer, the next day you're working with someone on site. So sometimes you're based in an office, sometimes you're based on site, and that could be anywhere in the country or in the world.
It's definitely a career where you meet people all the time, different projects, different disciplines.
You're part of a team of professionals that all work together to realise a project and build buildings.
You get to see something from nothing. You see the site, you see it being built, you see it built, and you see it being enjoyed.
At the end of the day, when you go, or I go, the building's still there. It's there for 60 years, it's there for 100 years. It's one thing you give back to society